The summer of 1985 should have been etched in Linda Carroll's memory for the joy it promised. Instead, it marked the beginning of a lifelong ache. Her only daughter, Melissa, and Melissa's husband, Brandon, had vanished just days after their wedding. One moment they were laughing in their yellow Ford Thunderbird, the engine purring with youthful freedom. The next they were gone, swallowed by the Florida heat and silence. For 12 years there was nothing. No calls, no sightings, only unanswered questions that gnawed at Linda's heart like relentless waves against a crumbling shore. She filled the silence with rituals, mundane habits to anchor her in reality. Every Thursday morning she walked the same aisles at the Homestead Walmart, selecting tomatoes with precision, weighing lettuce heads like decisions. It was a fragile structure built to keep despair at bay. That morning, as the Florida sun stretched long shadows across the parking lot, Linda's world tilted. Her cell phone rang sharply, a jarring sound still unfamiliar to her. She had won the device in a supermarket lottery months ago, and now it buzzed ominously in her purse. As she fumbled to answer, a bag of oranges rolled from her cart. "Mrs. Carroll, this is Detective Jason Pram from the Homestead Police Department. I need to know where you are right now." Linda's breath caught. Thousands of calls over the years had led to nothing but false hope. But something about the detective's tone clutched at her gut. "I'm at Walmart. Why? What's going on?" "We need you to come to Everglades National Park. It's about Melissa and Brandon. We believe we've found something." The words struck like thunder. Her fingers went cold around the phone. "What did you find?" "Their car, the yellow Ford Thunderbird. We need you to help identify it. The Whitmore family has also been contacted. Can you meet us at the park entrance on Main Park Road?" Linda didn't reply. She couldn't. She simply left the cart in the middle of the produce section and walked out. Other shoppers turned their heads, but Linda didn't notice. Her thoughts spiraled into the void she'd tried to close for over a decade. The 20-minute drive felt endless. As the road cut deeper into the Everglades, memories assaulted her. Melissa's laughter echoing from the back seat, Brandon's awkward charm, the way her daughter had clung to her that last night before the wedding, whispering, "We'll come back, Mom. It's just a little honeymoon." But they never did. Authorities had concluded the couple ran away, that they'd started fresh somewhere new. It was easier than admitting something darker. But Linda had never believed it, not for a moment. Melissa was too loyal, too aware of what it meant to be raised by a single mother who scraped and clawed to give her a better life. Yet years of absence wore down even the fiercest hope. Linda had finally begun to bury her belief in closure under layers of reluctant acceptance. Until now. When she arrived, the scene was a maelstrom of flashing lights and hushed chaos. Police cruisers and park authority vehicles circled the parking lot like sentinels. Yellow tape rippled in the wind. Linda barely registered the crowd of onlookers or the sharp morning light that reflected off the chrome trailer. All she saw was the car. The Thunderbird, once gleaming and new, was now a ghost of itself. Mud coated its shell, algae clung to its curves, and dark water dripped from every seam. Still, even through the grime, Linda recognized it instantly. She remembered Gregory Whitmore, Brandon's father, posing proudly next to it, demanding photo after photo. "Mrs. Carroll." Detective Pram's voice drew her back. He had the weary eyes of a man too familiar with sorrow, though he couldn't be more than 40. "Let me introduce you to someone." A group of college students approached, young faces etched with nervous energy. A tall, sandy-haired boy stepped forward. "I'm Jake Morrison. We're environmental studies majors from the University of Miami. We were researching land changes in the Everglades when we noticed something off in a 1985 satellite image." He handed her a photo. Linda squinted at the grainy image, her heart tightening. In a patch of dark water, A faint yellow shape protruded like a buried memory. Our professor thought it might be that missing persons case. We sent the coordinates to the police. Detective Pram picked up the thread. The site is incredibly remote, deep water, dense vegetation. It took 4 hours to extract the vehicle, using sonar, divers, and a police boat. We had to airlift it out with a chopper. Just then, the Whitmores arrived. Gregory still carried himself like a man too proud to bend, while Eleanor floated behind with a practiced air of dignity. Their younger son, Daniel, trailed them, uncertainty in his eyes. Linda's chest clenched as Gregory marched toward the car. He confirmed the license plate without hesitation. "That's the Thunderbird I bought Brandon, custom plate. FTB 1985. "Did you recover anything inside?" Linda asked, bracing herself. Detective Pram hesitated. "No bodies, no blood, nothing conclusive, only this." An officer handed over a sealed evidence bag. Inside was a silver lighter. Gregory produced a matching one from his pocket. "That's Brandon's. We bought them together, Christmas '84. Eleanor's mask cracked. "If they weren't in the car, then where are they?" The detective's voice turned grim. "Whoever did this knew the terrain. They picked a spot where a car could sink and vanish. This is no longer just a missing persons case. It's potentially criminal." Gregory turned red. "Before you go chasing ghosts, send divers back. Look for bodies." "We already have teams expanding the search grid," the detective assured. Then Gregory turned on his son, his voice low but scathing. "This is why you don't marry beneath you. Poor girls ruin families, just like she ruined your brother." Daniel looked stricken. "Dad, Brandon loved her. You know he did." Linda exploded. "Still blaming my daughter after all this time?" Gregory sneered. "She had connections, old boyfriends, gang ties. Maybe someone got jealous." "If Melissa was after your money," Linda snapped, "she wouldn't have disappeared. She would have stayed to collect. Don't you dare." Gregory stepped toward her, accusing. "Your daughter led my son astray. She tainted him." But Linda didn't flinch, because now something deeper than grief stirred inside her, a mother's fury, a broken heart sharpening into purpose. Someone had stolen Melissa, and Linda was going to find out who. Linda's voice rose, sharp with truth and fury. She wanted to wait. It was him who convinced her otherwise. That's why they married so young. She was just 24. The argument spiraled. Voices clashed. Accusations burst from wounded hearts, echoing through the humid morning air. Tourists and rangers alike froze, drawn by the tension. Officers stepped in, arms outstretched, guiding the chaos apart. "Enough!" Detective Pram's command sliced through the shouting. "This isn't helping. You're both grieving, confused, but screaming at each other won't bring clarity." He gently placed a hand on Linda's arm, guiding her toward her car. "Please, Mrs. Carroll, let's not give him more power by letting him provoke you." Tears burned behind Linda's eyes. "He's making my daughter sound like a criminal. She sang in the church choir. She volunteered every weekend at the food pantry. She wasn't what he says." "I know," the detective replied softly. "We'll go through everything at the station. For now, I need you to go home and rest. Can you drive yourself, or should I call someone?" Linda inhaled deeply, steadying her trembling hands. "I can manage. Just give me a moment." Her feet carried her back to her aging Honda as if by memory alone. Through the windshield she saw Gregory still gesturing at officers with indignant authority. His presence made her stomach turn. She turned the ignition and drove away, leaving the flashing lights and sirens behind. But the image of that yellow Thunderbird, waterlogged and broken, followed her like a shadow. Back home, the silence felt deafening. The walls seemed to lean inward, heavy with the weight of memories. She stood in her living room, surrounded by the stillness of her grief, until her legs carried her, unbidden, down the hall to Melissa's bedroom. She hadn't opened that door in months. The creak of the hinges startled her. A stale odor of dust and decay curled from the crack. The room was a time capsule, frozen in the moment Melissa had last stepped out. Dust filtered through sunbeams like ash. The once bright floral wallpaper had faded to a dull whisper. Her makeup still cluttered the dresser. A romance novel lay abandoned on the nightstand, and a sundress lingered on the chair like a ghost. Time had not been kind. Mold spotted the clothes. Plush animals stared with clouded, buttoned eyes. Linda whispered into the silence, her voice a broken prayer. "Oh, baby girl." Driven by some inner resolve, she flung open the windows and fetched cleaning supplies from the garage. If the police were reopening the case, they might need Melissa's belongings, and maybe, just maybe, it was time to pack away the shrine of memory she'd clung to for too long. She started with the closet. Each item she folded carried a weight beyond fabric. Her graduation dress, the blouse from her first date with Brandon, the skirt she'd worked overtime to buy. On the top shelf, Linda's hands brushed against unfamiliar objects. A man's watch, a University of Miami sweater, Brendan. Her jaw clenched. She had always suspected he stayed over despite her rules. Melissa had been raised with strict values, but love had its own temptations. And Brandon Whitmore had charm, wealth, and ambition. She packed his items separately: shirts, cassette tapes, a tennis racket, toiletries. She labeled the box meticulously: Brandon Whitmore, personal items. It took 3 hours to clean. Her back ached, hands raw from scrubbing. The room still felt like a shrine, but a cleaner one. Boxes stacked against the wall, neatly sealed. She placed Brandon's box in her car. As she sat behind the wheel, hesitation gripped her. The Whitmores lived in Gables Estates, a realm of manicured perfection far from her modest home. But they had staff. Someone would take it. 20 minutes later, she pulled up to the ornate gate. As she stepped out, box in hand, Gregory stormed from the garage, expression dark. "What the hell are you doing here? You're blocking my gate. Get off my property." Linda held out the box. "Just returning Brandon's things." "Leave it there," he barked, gesturing at the ground. "Someone will take care of it. Now move your pathetic car." Her fingers itched to hurl the box at his face. Instead, she placed it gently on the pristine driveway. She climbed back into her car, trembling. Gregory pulled alongside her in his Mercedes. "When I return, I don't want to see you or that piece of junk near my home. Understood?" He didn't wait for a response. Linda stared at the box, sitting there like discarded baggage. Her gut twisted. She couldn't leave it like that. She got out, retrieved the box, and rang the doorbell. Daniel answered, eyebrows raised. "Sorry to bother you," she said, holding out the box. "I wanted to be sure someone received this." "Actually," he said, stepping aside, "we were just sorting Brandon's room. There's something you should see." Linda hesitated, then entered. The Whitmore house was a palace of marble, light, and silent history. Upstairs, Eleanor knelt by a box, looking up as Linda entered. Her voice was quiet. "Thank you." It seemed like time, especially after this morning. Linda nodded, noticing a smaller box filled with Melissa's items, her hairbrush, jewelry, books. "I'll take those," she said softly. "Thank you for keeping them." "There's something else," Daniel said. He handed her a velvet box from Brandon's desk. It was heavy, elegant. Inside, nestled in satin, was a black lace lingerie set. A card in bold script read, "From Otis." Linda blinked. "Otis?" Melissa never mentioned anyone by that name. "We don't know him either," Eleanor said. "We found it hidden behind shoes in Brandon's closet." They stared at the delicate, expensive lingerie. The price tag still clung to the lace. $200. 0 cents. Brand new. If someone named Otis gave this to Melissa, why was it in Brandon's closet? Linda asked. Did he find it? Did she give it to him? Daniel looked uneasy. Brandon was jealous. He wouldn't have kept this quiet. Linda closed the box with finality. This could matter. We need to take it to Detective Pram. I'll go with you, Daniel said. Eleanor gave a faint nod. The walls that once divided them were beginning to crumble, just slightly. Daniel stayed behind as Linda gathered Melissa's belongings, his expression resolute despite the tension hanging over them. He slipped the velvet box into a discreet bag and offered Linda a quiet nod. Together they stepped out into the brightness of the Whitmore estate, the air thick with unease. As they made their way toward the garage, Linda couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that the mysterious Otis might hold answers to questions that had haunted her for over a decade. The Whitmore garage resembled a luxury showroom. Gleaming floors, climate control, and a space for 6 high-end vehicles. Daniel's silver BMW sat ready in the third bay. But before they could leave, the low, familiar growl of Gregory's Mercedes echoed into the drive. Linda's heart sank. Your father's back. Daniel's jaw tightened. It's fine. Gregory stormed out before the engine cut, his face a mask of fury. What the hell is she still doing here? Daniel, what exactly are you doing with this woman? Calm down, Dad. We found something important in Brandon's room. Daniel lifted the bag. Mom and I were sorting through his things. And where are you taking it? To the press? To humiliate us? To the police, Danielle replied firmly. It could be evidence. Gregory snatched the bag, his anger intensifying as he opened the velvet box, his face twisted in disbelief. Lingerie? You're taking lingerie to the police? Linda stepped in. Look at the card. It's signed by someone named Otis. Neither Eleanor nor I know who that is. Don't you think that matters? Gregory's eyes narrowed. And you think this is relevant? Dad, we should have shown this to you first, Daniel said, trying to defuse him. You left this morning in a rush, said you needed to get Grandma's meds. Which I did, Gregory replied sharply, tapping his jacket. That still doesn't explain why you're plotting with her. We're not plotting, Daniel said, exhaustion creeping into his voice. We found it in Brandon's closet. A man sending Melissa lingerie? That's not nothing. Gregory looked flustered. You called me to help this morning. I told you I was busy. Busy where? You didn't say. Storage. Office stuff. Why should I know every guy my son ever met? Maybe Otis was one of Melissa's old boyfriends, who knows? We're still taking it to the police, Daniel said, his tone final. Gregory huffed. Fine. But I'm coming. I'll drive. Dad, give me your keys. I'll go with Mrs. Carroll. You need to go to the office anyway. Gregory bristled, then relented. As he pulled Daniel's car keys from his pocket, a second keychain clattered to the ground. Linda's eyes instinctively followed the sound. One of the keys had a label. She caught a glimpse of the letter O before Gregory hastily scooped it up. What was that? Daniel asked. Nothing, Gregory said too fast. Just storage. Linda didn't believe him. Gregory climbed into Daniel's BMW and peeled away without another word. Linda stood beside Daniel, trying to piece together the implications. Your father seems stressed, she said carefully. Daniel sighed. He's been like this since Brandon vanished. Mom says it's grief, but sometimes it feels like something more. They drove back to the estate in silence, the velvet box resting between them like a ticking clock. As Linda pulled into the driveway, she noticed a man standing in the garage near Gregory's Mercedes. He wore a crisp white shirt, dark slacks, and the calm demeanor of long-time service. That's Ray Delane, Daniel explained. Dad's driver. He only calls him when it matters." Ray approached with a warm, professional smile. "Mr. Daniel, good to see you." "Hey, Ray," Daniel greeted him. "This is Mrs. Carroll, Melissa's mom." "Ma'am," Ray said, nodding with gentle sympathy. "I'm sorry for your troubles." Linda thanked him, surprised by his genuine presence, a stark contrast to Gregory's constant tension. "Your father called," Ray explained, "asked me to take his car to the office and return Daniel's BMW here. You know how particular he is about the Mercedes." Daniel chuckled. "No one touches that car but him." "Thanks, Ray." Ray nodded, then slid into the Mercedes and pulled away. Inside, Eleanor was seated on the living room floor beside a cardboard box, her elegance weathered by the day's revelations. She looked up as they entered. "How did it go at the station?" "We handed over the box," Daniel said. "The officer will run for fingerprints, check boutiques for purchase records." Linda added, "They'll search for anyone named Otis. It's not a common name around here." Eleanor nodded slowly. "Good. It's something." She gestured to the box beside her. "Melissa's things. Everything I could find." Linda stepped forward, her fingers trembling slightly as she knelt beside the box. Something in her heart whispered. They were getting closer. Each memory unearthed, each clue revealed, was another step through the fog of mystery and pain. But something else lingered too, a question. Who was Otis? And what secret was Gregory still hiding? Eleanor stood and smoothed the folds of her skirt, her movements composed but her expression tender. Just some clothes, a bit of jewelry, a few photographs. They didn't have much time to build a life together. Linda took the box with trembling hands. Her throat tightened. "Thank you for saving these." In a gesture that startled Linda, Eleanor stepped forward and embraced her. It was brief but genuine, a rare crack in the stoic woman's armor. "I'm sorry for Gregory, not just today, but always. We're both mothers. We should have leaned on each other instead of pulling apart." When she stepped back, her eyes were damp. "I truly hope the police find answers. We all deserve peace." "That means more than you know," Linda said, the box pressed close to her chest. Daniel offered to walk her out, but she gently refused. "Stay with your mom. She needs you." Linda carried the box through the cool marble foyer into the blinding afternoon sun. As she approached her car, she heard voices near the gate. Ray was speaking to someone. A younger man, early 30s, stocky, nervous. Linda paused, pretending to adjust the box in her trunk while covertly observing. The man kept shifting his weight, eyes darting like a rabbit sensing danger. Her breath caught when she saw his necklace, a gold chain with large letter pendants. From her angle she could clearly see an O, and was that an S? She slid into the driver's seat, angling her rearview mirror just in time to see Ray grab the chain. "Boss said not to wear this." Ray's voice, stern and clipped, floated on the wind. But Ray didn't let him finish. He yanked the necklace off with unexpected force and gripped the man's arm. Then, with calm precision, he escorted him to Gregory's Mercedes. The car started, tires crunching over the driveway. Linda's heart raced. The necklace. The name. Otis. This couldn't be coincidence. Without hesitation, she started her engine, turned right instead of left, and began to follow. She kept 2 cars behind, praying she wasn't seen. Her hands were slick with sweat, mind reeling. She wasn't a sleuth. She was a mother. But now she was in pursuit of the truth that had haunted her for 12 long years. The Mercedes led them through Homestead's business district, then into the lot of a sleek office building. A sign read, Whitmore Industries. Everyone in town knew it. Linda parked across the street behind a delivery truck, heart thudding. Was she really doing this? Minutes later, Gregory appeared from the building. His face was stormy. He exchanged keys with Ray. Gregory got into the Mercedes. Ray climbed into Danion's BMW. Otis remained in the passenger seat. Both cars pulled out. Linda waited, then followed the Mercedes, maintaining distance. They left the bustle of town, entering residential areas that gave way to open stretches. The sun began its descent, casting long golden beams across the Everglades. Then the turn, the same one she'd taken that morning. Gregory was heading back to Everglades National Park. Her stomach twisted. Why? She kept back, letting tourist vehicles buffer her approach. At the Ernest Coe Visitor Center, she parked behind an. Gregory and Otis exited the Mercedes and walked toward one of the trails. Linda waited a minute, grabbed a park brochure and followed, just a curious tourist. The first half hour they stayed on the main trail. Linda photographed birds, pretending interest. As the terrain changed from wetlands to rocky pine forest, she recognized the transition to Long Pine Key. The elevation here was subtle, but it provided a dry rise amidst the swampy sea. Tourists became sparse. Her tension mounted. Then they veered off. No sign marked this path. It was raw land, untraveled. Linda hesitated, every instinct screaming to stop. But she didn't. She followed. The trail was brutal. Sweat soaked her shirt, thorns scratched her arms, but she pressed on. 20 minutes later, she heard voices. She crouched behind a wall of brush and limestone. In a small clearing, they stood alone. Gregory's voice cut through the still air. "Point to the exact spot. I need to know where you buried the girl. If the police get close, I must be ready." Linda stopped breathing. Otis stepped toward a bramble-choked rise. "Here, right here, 6 feet down. Limestone was tough, but we managed, just like you said." Linda bit her lip until it bled. Her baby, her Melissa, buried out here like trash. Gregory nodded, surveying the ridge like a developer eyeing prime land. "Good, leave it alone. No one will find it unless they know." "What about me?" Otis asked, his voice cracking. "You said you'd help." "You were an idiot to use your real name on that card. I told you get close to her, make Brandon jealous, not mail her lingerie with your signature. You said it would make it believable." "Enough." Gregory raised a hand. "Here are your choices. 1. Disappear. Tonight. No money. No contact. 2. Go to the police. Confess. Say you are Melissa's jealous ex, that you killed them both, buried them, sunk the car, take the fall." Otis stammered. "Why would I?" $300,000, Gregory interrupted. "Offshore account. Your family gets it. You serve time. I have friends. You won't be inside long. The world gets closure. The case closes. No one hears my name." Otis hesitated. "My father won't approve." "You're not a child. Make your choice." Then Otis whispered, "Fine, for the money." Gregory smiled coldly. "Smart choice. Now let's go. We're losing daylight." Hidden behind a curtain of brush, Linda stayed frozen. The truth was darker than she ever imagined, but now she had it. They turned to head back the way they'd come, unaware they were leaving behind the weight of their confessions in the humid air. Linda remained frozen behind the dense vegetation, her pulse thundering in her ears. As soon as their footsteps began to fade, she waited 1 minute, then another. Only when the silence settled fully did she reach for her cell phone with trembling fingers. The signal blinked, 2 bars, not ideal, but enough. She dialed Detective Pram's direct number. Static cracked over the line. When his voice answered, urgent and clipped, Linda didn't hesitate. "Detective, it's Linda Carroll. I'm at Everglades National Park, Long Pine Key region." "I followed Gregory Whitmore. He's here." He's with a man named Otis. I heard everything. Otis admitted to burying Melissa's body. Gregory's paying him to take the blame for both murders." There was a pause, then Detective Pram's voice sharpened. "Mrs. Carroll, that was incredibly dangerous. Give me your exact location. Stay where you are. Stay hidden. We're dispatching units now." She relayed every detail. The trail, the turnoff, distinctive trees, rocky ridges. Then the line went dead. For a moment, Linda just stood there, phone limp in her hand. Her gaze drifted to the patch of earth Otis had pointed to. Her daughter had been here, in this very place. Alone, forgotten, buried in the roots of wild Florida wilderness. Tears fell silently as she retraced her steps with slow, deliberate care. Her body ached from tension, legs trembling, each breath shallow. The golden slant of the sun made the trail difficult to read, shadows creating illusions of movement. Her heart stuttered at every crack of branches, every whisper of wind. The main trail emerged like a lifeline. A few hikers meandered in the distance. Linda forced herself to adopt a casual pace, pretending to admire the scenery, hiding the storm that churned inside. Then she saw it. The parking lot, now transformed into a flashing hive of emergency lights and ordered chaos. Police cruisers lined the area, red and blue lights bouncing off every surface. Yellow tape fluttered in the breeze. Tourists were being guided away by park rangers. At the center of it all, Linda saw Otis seated on the curb, cuffed and watched. Gregory stood nearby, wild-eyed, gesturing as he spoke to officers. Detective Pram broke from the group as Linda approached, but she brushed past him. "He's lying to you," she said, pointing directly at Gregory. "Whatever he's saying, it's a lie." Gregory turned, eyes blazing. "This woman has been stalking me. She followed me from my home. I want her arrested, now." "I heard everything," Linda said, locking eyes with Detective Pram. "I saw Ray take a necklace from Otis, said his boss didn't want him wearing it. Necklace had the letters O and S. I followed them here. I heard Gregory ask Otis to show him the grave. I heard him offer $300,000, 0 cents, to take the blame for both murders." Detective Pram's demeanor changed as the story poured out. Gregory laughed bitterly. "You're taking her seriously? She's been harassing my family for years. I was here to mourn my son. This man," he pointed at Otis, "is just a bodyguard. I don't even know his last name." "You called him Otis," Linda countered. "The same name from the card on the lingerie. And he showed you where Melissa is buried." Pram turned to Otis. "Sir, what's your name?" Otis looked between Gregory and the officers. Sweat pooled at his brow. His lips parted, then closed again. Finally, he muttered, "I want a lawyer." Detective Pram nodded. "That's your right, Detective Morgan. Separate Mr. Whitmore and Mrs. Carroll. No one leaves." Officers sprang into action. Otis was escorted to a squad car. Others gathered equipment, shovels, cameras, evidence bags. Linda was taken to a bench near the visitor's center. Across the parking lot, Gregory continued to rant, growing redder by the minute. Every word felt surreal, but also inevitable. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky with burning oranges and purples, Linda waited. Each second stretched like hours. Then, a familiar car pulled into the lot. Daniel's BMW. Eleanor stepped out, her face pale. "Linda, what's going on?" Daniel asked. "We got a call," Eleanor added. "They said Gregory was detained." Linda stood, her voice barely a whisper. "I followed them. I saw and heard everything. Gregory paid Otis to take the blame." Eleanor stared at her, confusion giving way to horror. "No, he wouldn't. He couldn't." But Daniel didn't respond. His eyes were locked on his father. Actually, Mom, it makes a terrible kind of sense. He never wanted Brandon with Melissa. After they vanished, he barely said their names. That's how he grieves, Eleanor murmured. Or hides guilt, Daniel said. Time dragged. 40 minutes, then 50, an hour. Finally, Detective Prom returned. His expression said everything. We found human remains where Mrs. Carroll indicated. The scene is secure. The remains will be transported for forensic analysis. Eleanor gasped, tears falling freely. Daniel placed a steady hand on Linda's shoulder. Across the lot, Gregory reacted. He lunged forward, trying to break free. No, you don't understand. Daniel stepped in front of him. Don't be stupid. This is over. Move. I can explain. Not anymore, Daniel said, voice like ice. Officers restrained Gregory. As they searched him, a small key ring fell to the ground. Linda's breath caught. The same key ring she'd seen earlier. One key had a label, OIS. Detective Pram picked it up. Mr. Whitmore, care to explain why you have a key labeled with the name of someone you claim not to know? Gregory's lips flattened. He said nothing. But the silence was louder than any confession. Detective Prom's voice was low but firm. Mr. Whitmore, is this key related to your son's remains? Did you mark it with Otis's name to shift blame if it was ever discovered? Still, Gregory remained silent, his jaw clenched. Eleanor suddenly stood, her grief igniting into fury. You've been lying to us all these years, Gregory. Where is our son? She strode forward, snatching the key from Detective Pram's hand. Her eyes scanned the label, then her face went pale. This looks like a key to the memorial house. The columbarium where our family's ashes are kept. Detective Pram's partner, already on his radio, confirmed permission to investigate. Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Whitmore, he said, addressing Eleanor and Daniel. We'll need you to take us to that location. Daniel nodded grimly. Of course. He turned to Linda. I'll update you as soon as I know anything. Thank you, Lyndon whispered. With a police escort, Eleanor and Daniel departed. Meanwhile, the field team returned from the Everglades, carrying secured evidence bags. Detective Pram approached Linda. Mrs. Carroll, we need to take your formal statement at the station. Mr. Whitmore and the other suspect are being processed. As officers began reading the Miranda rights, Otis erupted. You still owe me that money. We had a deal. Gregory sneered, his voice venomous. Not a single cent. You couldn't even follow basic instructions. They were separated, escorted into different patrol cars. Linda tried to stand, but her legs betrayed her. I don't think I can drive, she admitted. Detective Pram offered a nod of understanding. Officer Martinez will drive your vehicle. You can ride with me. She handed over her keys, slid into the passenger seat, and watched the Everglades disappear behind them. A place of secrets, now surrendering its silence. The Homestead police station buzzed with purposeful motion. Inside, the tone was serious but focused. Phones ringing, officers conferring in hushed urgency. As Pram led her through, Linda spotted a familiar face. Ray Delane. No longer calm, but hollowed. The warm driver now appeared as a ghost of the man she'd met. Picked him up 20 minutes ago, the detective confirmed, noting her stare. Otis gave us enough on the ride back to secure an arrest. In booking, Gregory remained arrogant, shouting for his lawyer and vowing retaliation. Otis, by contrast, slumped, like a man whose facade had collapsed. Mrs. Carroll, this way, Prem said gently. In a small interview room, the stark lighting felt intrusive. He offered her coffee, which she declined. She accepted water. First, I want to say how truly sorry I am, the detective began, sincerity etched in his weary features. No parent should go through this. 12 years of not knowing. It's too much. That broke her. The tears came in hot, unstoppable waves. At least now I know, she sobbed. All these years, I wondered if she was suffering, trapped, calling for me. Or maybe she just chose another life, left me behind. At least now, I know she isn't in pain. Pram slid a box of tissues toward her. We'll get answers, but first I need your full statement. Then I'll tell you what Otis confessed in the car. Linda nodded, slowly piecing together the day's events. She spoke of the morning call, the discovery of the Thunderbird, Gregory's behavior, the strange lingerie, the confrontation at the Whitmore estate. Her voice strengthened when describing the hike into the woods, the overheard confession. The detective took diligent notes. Otis Dunhall, that's his full name, he explained afterward. He folded quickly when it became clear Gregory wouldn't shield him. He told us Gregory hired him in early 1985. His mission? Break up your daughter and Brandon. Linda's voice was dry. Because Melissa wasn't good enough. Gregory wanted someone with pedigree. Melissa's background threatened his legacy, so he orchestrated a campaign to derail their relationship. Otis followed Melissa, sent gifts, showed up where she worked, but none of it worked. Their bond was too strong. They eloped. Linda nodded bitterly. And that's when the real nightmare began. Gregory escalated, Pram said. He paid Otis and his father Ray to follow the couple to Dania Beach. The plan was to stage a robbery and kill Melissa while Brandon was away. Linda trembled. But he came back. Yes, and Otis admitted something else. Ray assaulted Melissa after she was dead. Brandon returned too soon. There was a struggle. Brandon was killed to silence him. Linda squeezed her eyes shut, hands curled into fists. Gregory arranged the cleanup. He used company trucks, wiped the cottage of evidence. There were no security cameras then. The car was dumped into the Everglades. The cottage owner was told they left early. And the police believed it. He had no reason not to. Linda's voice cracked. He cremated his own son. Yes, the detective said, and stored the urn under a different name hidden from the family. We keep Otis and Ray around after that? They had leverage. If Gregory ever turned, they'd take him down too. It was mutual blackmail. A knock at the door. A uniformed officer leaned in. Detective, the team just returned from the memorial house. The urn label under Otis Dunhall matches Brandon Whitmore's dental records. The room tilted slightly around Linda, but she was steadied by clarity. I need to speak to Daniel and Eleanor, the detective said. Would you mind waiting? There may be updates. She nodded. In the waiting area, plastic chairs and old magazines felt surreal after such revelation. Through the glass, she saw Eleanor and Daniel. They approached. Eleanor gripped Linda's hands. I'm so sorry for what Gregory did to Melissa, to Brandon, to you. Linda returned the grip. You didn't do this. You lost your son too. If only I had seen it. No one could, Daniel said quietly. Dad wore his lies like armor. Detective Pram reappeared. Mr. Whitmore, I need to speak with you. Daniel gave a final squeeze to his mother's shoulder. I'll update you. An officer then gently separated Linda and Eleanor, standard procedure. Linda was led to a smaller room. There, finally alone, she let herself unravel. 12 years of worry, of doubting, of holidays without joy, of wondering if she'd failed her daughter, if Melissa had chosen wealth and left her behind. But now she knew. Melissa had been taken, her light extinguished for loving someone beyond her social rank. But she had been loved, fiercely. Brandon had died trying to save her. That was real love. And now Linda could bury her daughter, could bring flowers, could say goodbye, could finally begin to heal.